Yeah, good evening, everyone. I trust it's been a productive day. First, let me apologize. I didn't send the assignment questions over. I think the week has been very busy and strenuous. For me, I should be able to send it after today's meeting. So obviously you're not able to present today. But I think you can prepare it towards next week, Thursday. I'm really so sorry. I've just been overwhelmed this week. Okay, so today we're supposed to look at KQL. So begin sharing my screen now. Please let me know when you can see my screen.
Yes, I can. You can help us zoom up.
Okay. I think just to appreciate ourselves, we've really covered a lot, and I think the only component left for us is actually Sentinel, which is the same part of Defender. So if you look at the things that we've done so far, we familiarize ourselves with the Microsoft Defender architecture, particularly the XDR. We've looked at how to mitigate threats using Microsoft Security Copilot, enhancing our capabilities within Defender using AI, basically. Um, we've looked at mitigating threats using Microsoft Purview, where we look at information protection, insider risk, and co. We've looked at mitigating threats using Microsoft Defender for endpoints. And yeah, we've looked at mitigating threats using Microsoft Defender for cloud. And the last component we'll be looking at is Sentinel. But for us to appreciate Sentinel, it's important that we actually look at KQL, a cost to query language. Um, a lot of us that, I mean, for some of us that have maybe data analytics background or have done database administration before, you will appreciate this. A lot of time when you collect logs, have logs coming in from different sources. And even if you look at XDR, for instance, you have some log sources that are coming in from Defender for cloud. You have some logs that are coming in from Defender for Office. You have some logs that are coming in from Defender for endpoint. You have logs coming in from Defender for identity. And all of these log sources, basically, if this were to be a live environment, we will see that we have a lot of logs coming in per seconds. And for I mean, I said IT, sorry, for security enthusiasts, or let me just say for threat engineers who trying to actually quickly get down to the root of the issues and then be able to resolve whatever threat that they see lurking in their environment. They must have a way to filter through all of the logs and be able to quickly get to information that they need. While we've tried to do so many things without actually having to write any query, I've mentioned that I've mentioned that SIM. I think someone asked a question earlier where I then had to clarify that Microsoft Sentinel is more like a SIM. It's It's a what's it called? It's a SIM solution. It's a security incident and event monitoring solution. So it's a security monitoring and event monitoring solution. Basically, what it is used for, if you have different logs coming from different places that you want to um first of all just save, if at all, a lot of time when incidents happen, when you have security incidents and you are trying to establish things like the attack timeline, what started the attack, how did the attack happen, if you don't collect log and retain log, all of those things may be very, very difficult to establish, especially for those kind of attack where you see the attacker implementing some evasion techniques. Evasion techniques like maybe there's an event, for instance, the attacker download a file to maybe a server, run the file, maybe it's a shell file, run the shell file and immediately deleted the shell file. So basically, if a threat engineer is trying to, they just notice that, okay, something happened on this server and we lost data, and they are trying to trace back what exactly happened. Some of the things that they could have seen, like maybe, oh, there was a share file that was downloaded, there was a share file that was run on this system, but because the attacker was evading and after downloading, he probably deletes log of the download from that server, and maybe after running, he deleted the file itself so that there's no trace that that file was there, and probably even went into events to actually delete the line of events that says that that share was run. So what organizations always do to be able to preserve audits is actually to collect all of those activities or events from different system and sources, and then be able to save them somewhere, usually in a sim where they can reference later, if there is a need to reference such an activity. So basically, each organization will have a data retention policy that says maybe, oh, events that are collected should be preserved maybe for 6 months or 1 year or 2 years, basically, and it can be overwritten. So one SIM solution that organizations can use for injecting logs and events and for preserving them is the Sentinel. Now, I said earlier that for some of us who understand, I mean, if you keep collecting this kind of log, you know how quickly that data set can become. It can quickly become very huge. Now, if you have a data in an SQL server or maybe in any other relational database and you want to retrieve it, a lot of time you have to write maybe like an SQL query to actually retrieve the data of interest. So for retrieving security event from Microsoft Enclave, let's just say XDR and Sentinel, it's very, very important that you are familiar with the KQL. It's very, very important that you are familiar with KQL, and that is why Microsoft has created this part on its own. So the first thing I'm going to say, a lot of this is going to be more of an academic, but I think it lay a good foundation for what we will be doing when we from the next week, what we'll be doing in a Sentinel. And I'll encourage everyone to try as much as possible not just to listen to the class and forget it, but for you to actually look at for you to actually look at the structure of the KQL, the construct, and also for you to be able to test different things. A good thing is Microsoft also envisage that it might be possible that we will not be able to have all of the data that we need to complete maybe this particular course, for instance. So Microsoft has a more of like a log source, a log workspace that is accessible to all of us in this class. Basically, what is important is for us to have an Azure account, basically, which I believe everyone on this call do. So if you are prompted to log on, just use your tenant account. Just use your tenant account to um sorry. Just use your tenant account to log in, and then you should be able to get to that log source. So I've dropped the URL on the chat, so individual of us can look at it. So before I continue, I'll first like to ask if there is any question on the things I have just said. And if there is none, I think we can begin. So like I said, KQL is essential for query log data, basically to perform analysis, and from your analysis, you can do some detection and also do some reporting. And I've also explained why this is very crucial, especially for Microsoft Sentinel and also for the XDR. For KQL, the structure is very basic, and for people who have understanding of how SQL query also works, a lot of time you will not have I mean you won't have any issue. I think this is just going to be easy peasy. In terms of the structure, if you look at the grid that I have in white, you basically have a simple KQL statement here. And the first part is actually the data set that you are searching. And most time you are going to have different data sets. If, for instance, I refresh this page, if you look at the table by the side, one thing, I'm just waiting for it to load. One thing that you quickly see is the fact that I have different data sets. Under Azure Monitor, for instance, I have these four different data that I can run. I have health, state, change events, insight metrics, VM computer, VM connection. I have different data tables relating to Azure resources. I have for container, I have for log management. I have for Microsoft Sentinel itself, where I have security events. And within the security events, I have different columns, which you can see. I have network performance, I have security and audit, different table. So basically what you have here, the data you have here is actually speaking to the data you have along here, the data that is available for to you to query in the first instance. And the table is always going to be different depending on where you are working from. For instance, currently I'm within the Azure environment, and like I said, KQL is actually Microsoft's way of saying if you want to query any event log, um, if you want to query any event log within the Microsoft ecosystem, you need to understand the KQL. There are ways of actually avoiding KQL, but I think it's very beneficial for you to understand how the KQL works, as it can make life very easy for you if you have to sort through an expansive log. If we look at what's it called? If we look at Defender, I mean XDR. In XDR, if you look at the nature of the log available, you see that if you compare it with what we have here in log analytics, it's very different. In log analytics, you are having different events. I mean, you are having different data relating to Azure services. In XDR, you are having what's it called? You are having a data structure that really mirror the different data that are being fed into the XDR from different sources. You have for identities, you have for behavior, you have for email and collaboration. And obviously, you should be able to tell where all of these are coming from. For apps and identity, is definitely coming from Defender for identity. For email and collaboration, is definitely coming from Defender for Office. For devices, it's obviously coming from endpoints. And also the vendor vulnerability management also coming from endpoints. You have from cloud apps, where you have, you have Defender for cloud, where you have the cloud infrastructure. And exposure management also coming from Defender for endpoint as well. So that said, I'm coming back to the data. I mean, that is just to explain what data structure and how to get the data you are querying. So it depends on where you're working from. And by the way, Sentinel is part of Azure service. So to query Sentinel, you also need to be in Azure. And as you can see here, you actually have Azure Sentinel here and different data frame, different data tables that we can query. Yeah, so getting back to custom query, so basically you see that you have the data and you have some filter. One of those filter you can use is where. If you have a large data set, your interest is also on a narrow set of data within that large data set. For instance, let's assume that I'm a traffic police and they told, okay, let me just say that I'm working with a police department or police intelligence, and they just told me that a vehicle, some robbers are just robbed in a place and they are trying to escape. And one of the vehicle that their vehicle has been marked as a blue, let's say Toyota, let's say muzzle, a blue muzzle. That's what they're using. If I am told that, oh, they pass through one particular junction, and I am interested in getting their maybe the plate number, and we have traffic camera. While I am looking at all of the cars vehicle first, I have to look at the vehicles that have moved through that junction first. That is my data set. But within that data set of all vehicles passing through that junction, my interest is in vehicles that fit the description of a Toyota, and it is blue. So basically, my where statement is going to be a vehicle is a Toyota, and also the color of the vehicle should be blue, basically. So the where statement is one of those clauses, or let me just say one of those, one of those clauses that you can use to actually narrow down to exactly what you want. And you can always use things like summarize or can't to also filter or to for presentation, basically, in a way. If you want to, I think in SQL statements you use something like sort. If you want it arranged in a particular way that is logical to you, that just help you quickly make sense of the data. So this is the structure for the SQL, for the KQL, sorry. And for KQL, you need to understand that it's a read only. You only use it to retrieve data. It does not allow you to inject any data, basically. And you can use it to request, process data, and return results, basically. I think for everything here, I've already explained them in words. The tabular expression, statement syntax as tabular data flow from one tabular query operator to another. And basically, if you look at it, the first thing is you're working on the data itself. You're beginning to use clauses to filter and set condition. And yeah, you are presenting it in a way that makes meaning to yourself. I did mention that Microsoft already has a demo log that we can use. Albeit, this is for Azure Log Analytics, and Azure Log Analytics can actually contain data about anything. So anything within Microsoft and even non-Microsoft products that you are interested in keeping, you can forward it into the log analytics. It's also very, very similar to SIM. The only difference between log analytics and SIM is the fact that the log analytics can take data of any type. The Sentinel on the side is focused on security and also has some functionalities which also you can take advantage of. As it's security focused and also has some out of the box functionality that makes work and life easier for um what's it called, for security, threat engineers and security analysts. One thing we need to know about the link that I provided on the log analytics, it contains live data from Microsoft. So I don't know how Microsoft populates that. And basically sometimes when you run a query, that query may not be depending, the data changes, some of the query, you may find out that if you don't go as far back as possible, you may not actually see them. One of those query that I think, I'm not sure if you saw my screen when I just came on, was to um I think I was working within security events. I did the last 24 hours and you see that it did not return anything. If I should go as far back as May 1st and apply, then I think I got something earlier when I did that. So basically, when I ran it, so it's you may have to go far back for you to actually see those events. So just to be aware of that. And one thing I'll quickly like to call your attention to. Now you see that I didn't write these security events here. And I said earlier that it's possible for you to actually avoid use of KQL. Now, Microsoft also understand that a lot of people don't like memorizing syntax, or doesn't like anything that actually have a very long what's it called, learning curve. So one thing that Microsoft also has done is actually in simple mode, you can actually create a KQL without actually understanding how the KQL works. So for instance, here, if I select this if I search the what's it called, I can search this table, or I can select this table without necessarily having to do anything. So for instance, if I select this table, if this table contain any data, obviously it should actually show here. But the implication of selecting this table for the time range that I've selected and not getting anything, it just means that there is no data in that table that I selected, basically. So that's just the meaning. And if you look at the what's it called, if you come to advanced hunting in a Defender and you try to run a new query, you see that you have two options: to do query in editor or to query in builder. When you use query in editor, you have something similar to this, where you have to probably understand what you are trying to do. If I'm trying to search for something, I need to know exactly the table or the data, I mean the table that contains the data that I am looking for. So basically you need to understand, but if I don't know and I just want to be guided, I can actually also use in Builder. And if you use in Builder, basically you see that what Microsoft quickly gives you is actually list of different things that I mean the common things that people always search for. Now, if your focus is narrowed rather than just selecting everything, if I'm trying to find something related to email and collaboration, for instance, I can do email and collaboration, and you can see that what this give me is actually a sample query. So for the sample query, if what I'm interested is not just everything here, if it's related to malicious email delivered to inbox, I can select it. And what this quickly do for me is actually to give me a limited set of information that I need. And if I click on the thread type, I can even further refine the information that I need. And if I want to check, okay, where is the email delivered to? Is it in inbox or to the quarantine folder? You remember earlier when we created some rules to say that, I think in Defender for Office, to say that when someone sends us an email and it's match maybe a particular criteria, it should be sent to the quarantine folder, which I said the admin does, I mean, the end user does not have access to except the admin, except you have another configuration in place, maybe a digest that gives the end users maybe some link that allow them to access those mails that have been quarantined and then be able to release them. So you can apply, and you can also even maybe delivery location equals maybe if it is inbox or in the quarantine folder, for instance. You can select those and then you can apply. And what we just did here, if you run it, obviously I don't think I have anything in quarantine, but good thing I have many emails that ended up in my inbox because I'm actually searching inbox. um I mean, because I selected the inbox as part of it. Now, I've not written any KQL. I only used the what's it called? I only used what's the right word? The query builder to build the query, and you can see that it gave me a return data to me. So now, if I want to modify this query that I have in KQL, I can go ahead and run it in KQL, and you can see exactly by just clicking run in KQL. You can see that it actually gave me what's it called? It sort of gave me the KQL. So by actually navigating through the query builder in a sense can actually create the KQL for you, create a KQL for you basically. And if I run this query also, I should be able to have the same response as I had previously. And you can see, I can see the different events that, I mean, I can see information about the emails that I just searched for within my mailbox. So also, even if you look at log analytics, if you look at log analytics, you also have a simple mode, or maybe sorry. You also have a simple mode, and you also have the KQL structure. So if you know exactly what you are trying to find, the table where you are trying to find it, exactly, sorry, it's possible for you to also just uh do your query, and I mean, using just the simple mode of selection, and if you want to see what you have done in KQL, you can switch back to the KQL mode, and then you'll be able to see it. So now the first operator that we're going to have to learn is the search. Now, if you're looking for something, you are not sure where it is, but you know which data table it should be part of, you can actually search for it. And now, I mean, we just have some sample here that we can run directly against the data that Microsoft has provided. And if I click on run, the query ran for some time and also just came with this. For some of you, normally when you go to this URL, and I think it would be the last 24 hours. If you look at this is the not the last 24 hours, but this is the what's it called? This is not the last 24 hours. This is from May 2nd. That's more than today's date is 15. That's about 2 weeks ago. So you may need to change your time range to custom and then select a date up until May 1st and apply for you to be able to see this. And if I select from here to what's it called, to simple mode, you can see basically I just have a user query. I just have a user query and also the same data that I have from there. And if you want to be more specific, basically where you want this thing to be searched, you see earlier we said search for any event that contain this word ERR, and basically we're able to see this. And if you actually look here, you see operational ID as /ERR or parent ID as /ERR. So if you just use search, it basically search all of the tables available to you to find every match of the word. But I think currently we only have only one of these, but in cases where you know where the data should be and you want to be detailed in just ensuring that only data that makes meaning is returned to you, then you may want to specify the table. And in such instance, you may use the in. So search is to search, like we mentioned, but the in statement also then define a scope to say that it should be in security events, or maybe security alert, or maybe any other table that starts with A. And I think if I look here currently, you have some table here that start with A. You have some table that starts with A. I'm trying to even find this security event, right? I want to see which table, I mean, which log space actually contain it. Um, okay, it's in Sentinel. Security event is in Sentinel. Security event is also in security and audits. Yeah. So basically, it's saying search in security events, search in security alerts, and other tables that start with A. And if I run this as well, could not be passed at line. So that error happened because I highlighted something before I click on run. So what I highlighted was the only thing it was going to run, and that by itself doesn't make meaning. And that was the genesis of that error. And if you see, I ran this, it returned the same data because this is perhaps the only event available within the date range that we have specified that fits the criteria, basically. So aside the search operator, we also talk about the where operator, which can also be used to filter, which can also be used to filter. One thing I said, this looks more like an academic exercise, and sorry. A security event where time generated is greater than 1 days ago. I'm going to run this, and also you can also just run it. I think the most important thing is getting the construct. Now, for readability, it's possible for you to always just go. Um, just looking at this, I know that I'm looking at security event table, and inside that table, I am looking for events that has the time generated as longer than 1 day ago. If I look at here, you can see time generated for this one. Basically, I'm not sure we're going to see anything else in the security events table. But again, what this is showing you is if you are trying to trace an incident and you know between what time and what time it's actually happened. So rather than allowing the system to, or just saying search security event or search error or search in whatever, and then you put what you are trying to search, basically. It's also possible for you to actually just specify the table you are interested in and then put a filter that helps you return the exact data that you are interested in. And you see the where statement where the time generated is more than 1 day ago. If I Okay, I think again, the mistake I made earlier, while I was trying to explain, I've also highlighted something and I tried to run this, and you could see it could not pass time generated because it's lost sense of which table it should be looking at. So always just ensure that if I thought you want to highlight anything, highlight everything you want to run, or just don't highlight anything at all. And you can see also the time range set inquiry and event security event where time generated is greater than um this is greater than now. Yeah. Yeah, is greater than 1 day. So because I specify this in what's it called? Because I specify this in the query, it's not returning anything. You can also specify maybe exactly what you're looking for. But I think for rows, um, the log does not, I mean, the table we have does not contain so much. Let's see. Okay, so I went back into where time generated greater than 1 day. There you go. So I'm leave the door. Okay. So because we don't have any events generated recently, so our first filter is really not catching up anything until we're looking for um the ones that were generated beyond 1 day, and that's evident also if you actually check the security event table itself and you run for the last 7 days, you can actually see that there is nothing presented, except you are beginning to look for previous data. That is when we are then able to see when we're able to see things basically. One thing that Microsoft also did here is also to see, that you can also see, we're selecting the database, we're using the time generated, and also you can filter down using the and. If you have maybe some other parameters that qualify what you are looking for. If you look at what we have currently, you have security events where time generated is greater than, generated maybe within the last 1 hour, and the event ID is 4624. Um, Obviously, if you run this, I believe that it's not going to run anything except maybe, it's not going to generate anything except maybe you something, a new event has come in while we were talking in the last few seconds. So I'm just going to put even in the last 7 days, any event that has, let's see if there's any event that has the ID of 4624. And basically, if you look at this event, this is an ops manager event. I did mention that Microsoft can inject data from people can inject data from different sources into log analytics. So this particular event is coming in from operation manager, ops manager, for people that are familiar with System Center. So it's coming from ops manager, and then you can see of the other details of. So if you are trying to follow this course at your end, just if you run the way Microsoft ran it, just trying to limit the data that you get, and you don't have any data, you may just want to switch this over rather than looking in the last few the last 1 hour or last 1 day. You may just change it that event that you have before the last 1 hour, before the last 1 hour, or before the last 1 day, just for you to get something. And currently also, if I still want to filter it down, you see that this was very basic. And what Microsoft is doing, what this query is doing here is actually to narrow down this event by even changing this to the last 1 hour, and by specifying the exact event that you are interested in. And if you actually look at these particular events, all of them are going to I think here you are also able to select the column. The column we were interested in here was event ID. Okay, so event ID is already selected. So so if you open each one of these, if you look at event ID, you see that all of the data you have here must have event ID of what is it? Event ID of 4624 basically. So if I remove this event ID of 462424 and I'm trying to run the query basically, you see that all of the queries are going to be of different type. And if you look at event ID of some of them, that's if they have event ID, because it depends on the nature of all of the data that you are actually piping into here. So if you look at the event ID of this one, you see that it's 4688. But if what I'm interested in is actually a particular event, and most time different things that people do are logged as when they are logged as events, they're given an ID. So you see this one, it's this 462 is actually an account was successfully logged on. So if, for instance, you are trying to establish a timeline of attack and one of the IOC is the fact that someone must have logged on locally to be able to do that action, you may, or maybe there is a fraud and you are trying to narrow down who exactly logged on to perpetrate that fraud about that time. So this event ID is one of those things you can actually use to do the tracking of what you're looking for. And also, if you look in terms of charts, basically, you see that what the filter we've set, the data we're looking for, we only had that data on the 5th and on the 7th, and also I think which day was this? In February. So if we had been running query between this time range, we might not be able to see it. So it's always very critical to put mind on what is it called? To put mind in what's it called? To put mind on the day trade and then the timeline you are probably interested in. And here also you even filter it down from just when an account is logged on in. I always tell people that the way you have a user account, you also have a computer account, and computer system also log on to themselves. So if you are interested in actually seeing what's it called? You are only interested in a particular account type, maybe a system type, or where the account type is user, then you can also even filter it down by using the user. But also, if you are interested in multiple ID, there is also a way you can select it. So most important thing for this one is just know what where operator is. And where operator actually helps you narrow down into a particular table to actually do. I mean, yeah, search helps you to search a table, where helps you focus on a particular column where you are able to actually examine the data and ensure that the data that fits the criteria that you're looking for is what exactly, and it's what is being returned. So a lot of times, if you are into programming, rather than having to type something, maybe in terms of number of days or events ID, it's very difficult the way we are wired to think in that way. So if you want to have a representation, and by representation, I mean that rather than you throwing things around, maybe like putting event ID around, one of the things that you can do is actually declare them as a variable. The way you declare a variable in Costo query is to use the word let. If you are using maybe VB, for instance, you use a dim. If you are using PowerShell, you just give it a name and do is equal to. But in Costo query, if you want to declare a variable, you just use the word let, and then you can give it whatever name, and then you can give it a value. And you can also see that when when you define a variable, you also put a comma after the variable just to mark the end of that particular declaration. You see that the comma is not needed when you are writing the exact query itself. The only thing is if you want to be if you want to what's it called, if you just want to be organized and make it easy for people to be able to read and understand what you are writing, you can use the pipe on different line. You can always use the pipe on different line to demarcate individual statements or actions or filtering that you are doing. So if we take this back to what we have here, basically where we have date generated as 7 days ago. One thing we can do is just say let date of interest, for instance, equals 7 days ago, and we can put a semicolon. And rather than actually putting 7 days here, we can actually use date of interest. We can actually use date of interest like you have it here. And also, yeah, so we can just use date of interest like you have it here. And definitely also, if you want to run it, you can run it, and then I believe it should give you the same data where operator fail to resolve scalar expression name date. Have I made any mistake in there? Sorry. This is saying it's a scalar. Okay, I'm not sure why that didn't run, but it doesn't make sense. So basically you use the let to do the declaration, and also like just having a single variable. You can also do dynamic table or list. A list is what in conventional programming you call something like an array. And you can see here, you use the what is it called? Let to define suspicious accounts, and then you define it as a string. I mean, the data type is a string, and you also then list the accounts that are of interest to you. And basically, rather than having to specify those accounts again one by one, then you are only rather than running the accounts one by one, um rather than running the accounts one by one, you can just write a statement that reference the what is it called, the variable that you have defined. So for the extend operator, so the extend operator can be used to create a calculated column and append the new column to the result. Sometimes when you're looking for something in the data and you have a way of enriching the information that you have and presenting it along with the data, I mean, more like a calculated column. Let's just say I'm looking for a scenario let's say for instance, I have a situation where what would be the let's just say there is an okay, let's just say I'm looking for, I mean, if we've all watched all these US movie where the security departments or the defense departments are looking for people that fit a particular profile. And one of the things you probably see them do, they can say, someone that will do this. I think I watched an American movie recently where there was a robbery and there was a in the movie, the robbers they broke into a particular safe, and they said that whoever broke that safe must be someone that has worked with a company that produced the safe before. And then they were looking into the profile of all of the people that came into that environment recently, that were in that area. And one of the things they did was, okay, give me the list of everybody that's worked with that company in the last 10 years. Does any one of them have a record of what's it called? Maybe a record of a crime record? If they do, those can be moved to a suspected list. Now, basically, there is nothing like a suspected list, suspect list. What they have is the list of all people who have worked with that company, some of them who have previously been convicted of crime before, and then based on those values, then they are able to create another list that says that, okay, this list is a list of all suspected people that we should put our emphasis and focus on, basically. So what the extend operator does for you, if you need to calculate a column and also be able to present it along with the data, then you can use the extend. You see, basically, here we are looking at the security event table, and we are filtering by where process does not equals to empty, does not equal to null. I mean, where process name does not equal to null and process is itself is not equal to null. And then we are extending with start date. Start date equals a substring of process. You are taking the first. That thing is too loud. Sorry, just a minute. Yeah, sorry for the background noise. So we basically are looking at, I mean, so process name taking, I mean, this is a substring. Process name taking the first letter, substring size, the size of the process name itself. So this is just a calculation. So if you have an idea of what you are trying to calculate, basically, you can always use this to also use the extend to actually create a another column. In this case, we're using extend to create a start directory. We're using it to create a start directory column, which is calculated from process name by taking a string from process name, taking the size of the process name and appending it with the string size of the process name itself. So you also have the order operator. A lot of time when you are creating when you are generating a data, it may make sense to present it in some logical order. Sorry. It can make sense to present it in some logical order. Sometimes when you have your data, you may want to present it maybe based on particular column in an ascending order, in a descending order, or whatever. So basically, you see that here they are ordering it by start directory first. Um, and this is in descending order, and then you order it again by process in ascending order, and that really makes sense. So sometimes also you can use the project operator to control what columns to include, add or remove or rename in in the result of the statement. You see earlier that when we ran the what was it called? When we ran the KQL statement that we ran, we did not select which column to be returned. It just returned some columns. But also it's possible, I mean, you see that we have more columns than those that were returned. The ones that were returned, it was time generated. We didn't see the source. The source system was not included. We can see the account, we can see the account type, we can see the computer, we can see the event source name, we can see channel, we can see tags, we can see level, we didn't see the event ID, but we saw the event data, which is mostly empty. Sometimes you may be more interested in actually seeing some of the fields, some of the columns than what is presented to you by default. In that instance, you can actually then use the project to actually then select exactly. I think that is what they call the select statement in SQL. Um, in SQL basically. But for projects also, there are different use cases. You can see the project, select the column to include, rename or drop, and insert new column, blah blah blah. And you have variations of projects. You have project away. So this is telling you the columns to exclude from your output. You have project keep, which obviously is telling you of the columns from the input to keep in the output. You have the project rename, which is used to rename a column. For instance, if I feel like this event source name it's not very friendly enough, I can use the project rename to actually, sorry, I can use the project rename to actually rename the column to something more friendly. And I can use project reorder to actually order the column in the output in a particular order that I want. For instance, in this case, you see project away. Do we remember what project away do? What will happen if someone should run this event? Who wants to tell us? If someone runs this event, I mean, if someone runs this statement, what will happen?
It's going to show the columns apart from the
Yes,
process name.
process name. Exactly. It's going to show the columns apart from the process name. So the module assessment, just to check your knowledge, what does the search operator do? Searches across table and isn't column specific. Searches only data in the last are searches in column specified. What does the search operator do?
First one.
Yeah, the first one, it's used to search across tables. It's used to search across tables. What are project operators? Operators filter a table to the subset of rows that satisfy a predicate. Create summarized column and append them to a set of results. What does this? What summarize column and append them to the set of results? Which yeah, I mean, is that which predicate does that? That is extend. If you want to summarize or make a calculated column and append, and make a calculated column and add, you use the extend to do that. So project operators add, remove, rename column in a result. I believe, okay, I've answered it, but I believe it should be project operator basically. Project operators add, you can use it to add, you can use it to remove, you can use it to rename a column in a set basically. Now you can see that it's very interactive, and the fact that also you can play with the what's it called? Also, you can play with the data and also the log analytics table provided by Microsoft. This says in the last 24 hours. I'm just going to go to more like January 1st just to see if I have any data that match that. Okay, so I have data that match that, and obviously so actually I didn't have to go that far. Because if you look at it, you're just looking for security event where process name is not empty. If I say process name is empty, for instance, and what's it called? And process is empty, I don't think that scenario would probably be possible. Yeah, so I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to allow you all to read the rest of, I mean, just not to bore you with the, what's it called? I'm going to allow the rest of you to I mean to go through the rest of the query while we just do some hands-on on Saturday. Analyzing query results in KQL. What we've just done is how to write a query itself using the different constructs available to us, the where, I mean the search, the where, the extend, the order by, the project away, basically. So those are the things that the construct that you can use, but those, it's not limited to that. You'll probably see that there are logical constructs also, like the and. There were construct like in, and there are construct like ago earlier, where we have to search something more than 7 days ago, basically. So I'll recommend that individuals should try to actually read the hostel query, what was it called? Guy, I think it's very straightforward, and you also have hostel query explorer, basically that people can even install on their system to actually test things out for themselves. And you have some query statements. I think what we just went through is a query statement. And you can also quickly see that there are some things that we didn't talk about. We talk about the query type, we talk about alias. I mean, we didn't talk about alias, we talk about let statements, and there are patterns statements as well. So going through this gives you more ground to actually look at that. And we have some special function as well. Not all of them are going to matter in terms of security, but I think all of them would be good for you to actually know. And again, I always say that the imagination and what you're trying to achieve is the first thing, but also knowing the what's it called, the constructs available to you basically can also make life very, very easy for all of us. So basically I think we'll stop early today, and I'll allow you to go through the how to analyze query. I think in a way we've already done that, but more also there are some queries that you can use that also make life more easier, like to summarize the data output, to render the render operator, also to create some visualization. So I'll say let's go through this, but we'll touch on them on Saturday. But I'll focus more on the hands-on. I'll not focus on having to read all of these or go through the reading basically with us. Again, any question? Any question? We're okay. That means, I mean, if you're not talking, that means I was very eloquent. I'm very clear. Okay, sorry, Wally. I'm just saying the chat are break in 5 minutes. I think we can actually close for the day. I'm done for today. So we continue on Saturday.